Tonight, the first public statement from music mogul Sean Diddy Combs.
Latest from the investigation into American rapper Sean Diddy Combs.
The rapper and music mogul hasn't publicly surfaced since the raids in both his LA and Miami Beach homes.
P. Diddy. His name's been going around. Let me catch you up on why. So on Monday, March 25th, armored police trucks rolled into the high-end neighborhood of Holmby Hills. This was a wealthy community nestled between Beverly Hills and Bel Air. So a district where some of LA's richest and most powerful families live. While the California police prepped for a raid, SWAT teams were simultaneously assembling in Miami. Again, they were in an exclusive, expensive area called Star Island. Now, during the coordinated raid that followed, the police handcuffed everyone who was in each of these two homes, the one in California and the one in Florida. This included two men who were brothers. Then the police questioned these people extensively, but they haven't publicly spoken about what they learned in those interrogations. However, we can make an educated guess because the mansion in Holmby Hills and the home in Miami had something in common. Both properties were owned by Sean Combs, and the two brothers who were apprehended were his sons.
Diddy's Los Angeles and Miami mansions raided by SWAT teams. His sons, Justin and King, in handcuffs in their own yard.
Now, Sean was a rapper who was known by a few different monikers over the years. Puffy, Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, and Brother Love were a few of his more famous stage names. You've probably heard his mega hit, I'll Be Missing You, at some point in your life. And he recently released a new solo album for the first time in over a decade and a half called The Love Album Off the Grid. Now, P. Diddy, as I'll be calling him in this episode, has been nominated for 14 different Grammy Awards, including one just this past year. Diddy was also extremely accomplished as a music producer. He discovered acts like Mary J. Blige, Biggie Smalls, and Usher. And he was known for throwing these massive parties where hopeful up-and-comers could network with powerful celebrities. And even once his recording career started slowing down, music insiders knew Diddy as a kingmaker. He was well-connected and had a great sense of who'd be the next big thing. A rap critic and writer named Thomas Hobbs described him as a conductor in an interview with Rolling Stone, someone who could spot talent and give someone the boost they needed to make it into the big time. Hobbs also said this ability meant that Diddy had the whole music industry in a stranglehold. And now here he was, apparently the target of a massive bi-coastal police raid. In connection with their searches of Diddy's properties, the authorities also arrested a man named Brendan Paul at a Miami airport. He's been described in the press as a drug mule, and reports suggested that he had illicit substances in his bag at the time of his arrest.
25-year-old Brendan Paul was being arrested in a civil lawsuit that alleges Combs operated a criminal enterprise. An attorney accuses Paul of being a mule for Combs' drugs and guns.
The police also implied he was specifically transporting these drugs on P. Diddy's behalf. Now, that suggestion aside, the police didn't confirm that they were specifically targeting Diddy in the raids or the arrests. I mean, it happens to be his drug mule and his houses, but they didn't necessarily come out and say he was their target. They just said they were working on a, quote, federal sex trafficking investigation. Still, it wasn't too hard to speculate and jump to conclusions. Besides the fact that Diddy owned both of the properties that were raided and seemed to be connected to Brendan Paul, he also had a long history of sexual assault allegations. This included some very recent accusations specifically about sex trafficking. So, exactly what the police were investigating. In 2019, his ex-girlfriend, Gina Huen, said that Diddy was physically abusive during their relationship. According to her, not only did the rapper beat her viciously, but his friends and coworkers knew about the assaults and did nothing to stop them. Then in February of 2023, a male music producer named Rodney Jones Jr., or Little Rod, said that when he worked with Diddy, the rapper pressured him. Little Rod had to hire and have intercourse with sex workers against his will. The producer also said that Diddy drugged him and threatened him afterward, and he also shared Little Rod with other predators. Diddy would allegedly take him to meet with celebrities who also assaulted him, and according to Little Rod, this wasn't an isolated incident. He wasn't the only victim. Diddy had a long history of luring hopefuls to his parties with a promise that they'd meet rich and powerful movers and shakers. Apparently, Diddy was just lying to trick people into coming over. Among other things, he'd like to say that Prince Harry would be at these gatherings. In reality, Diddy and Prince Harry only met once, and the royal had no idea that Diddy was advertising his presence. It was all allegedly part of a long, vicious con to draw more innocent, hopeful young people into P. Diddy's orbit. And once Little Rod filed his suit, it was like the floodgates opened.
Multiple lawsuits have been filed against Combs, including one by music producer Rodney Jones. Jones alleges sex trafficking and sexual assault, also mentioning underage girls in the 79-page lawsuit. Claims made by Jones include hidden cameras in the rap mogul's home, saying, quote, Mr. Combs allegedly threatened to eat Mr. Jones's face in order to get what he wants.
See, the state of New York had passed a law called the Adult Survivors Act. Typically, if someone in the state is sexually assaulted, they only have 3 years to file charges. But this new law temporarily expanded the statute of limitations. So up until November of 2023, survivors had the option to come forward and report much older crimes and take legal action. And this law allowed another one of Diddy's exes to come forward. Her name was Cassandra Ventura, but she went by Cassie.
I gotta give a special thank you to the people that was really like there for me. Also Cassie for holding me down in the dark times. Love.
Cassie said that 5 years earlier, Diddy had sexually assaulted her and forced her to have intercourse with other people, including sex workers. So she's saying the same exact thing Lil Rod said. While Diddy denied those accusations, he also settled a lawsuit with Cassie pretty quickly after she filed it.
Sean Combs accused of rape and physical abuse by his ex Cassie. In court docs obtained by ET Thursday, the R&B singer accuses the media mogul of creating a pattern of control and abuse that she alleges began soon after they met in 2005.
And it's worth noting that one of Cassie's friends came forward to corroborate her allegations. She published an open letter calling Diddy a sex trafficker. Now, just 5 days after Cassie filed her suit, another woman named Joy Dickerson Neal came forward. She said that in 1991, she had dinner with Diddy, and afterward, he reportedly raped her, filmed the assault, and later showed the footage to other men. Another accusation, which sounded eerily similar, came through that same week. An anonymous survivor said that she was also assaulted around 1990 or 1991. She said P. Diddy both raped her and choked her during intercourse. And then a fifth accuser came forward on December 6th. She missed the deadline to file under the Adult Survivors Act, and she wouldn't have qualified anyway because that law only applied to people who were adults at the time of the assault, because this Jane Doe said Diddy raped her when she was only 17. Now, according to her, Diddy arranged to fly her on a private jet from Detroit to New Jersey, and then they met up in Manhattan. Then Diddy and 2 other associates gave the girl alcohol and other controlled substances. Now, once she was too intoxicated to fight back, all 3 of the men reportedly gang raped her in a bathroom while she begged them to stop. The reports, they go on, and I want to note, I'm just focusing on sexual misconduct allegations. There were also countless incidents where Diddy was accused of attacking business rivals or even having people murdered. But those accusations didn't seem to be relevant to the March 25th raids. Either way, Diddy's PR team released a statement denying all of the rape allegations. They also complained about the size and scope of the raid, calling it a gross overuse of military-style force, excessive, and a witch hunt based on meritless accusations made in civil lawsuits. And Diddy also promised in this statement to prove his innocence, which was a little hard to take seriously because, to all appearances, Diddy may have left the country right after the police search. Again, this is mostly speculation. Depends on what source you're reading. Diddy and the police have kept pretty quiet about his possible travels, but some online sleuths found a website that tracks private jets as they fly around the world, and they noticed that Diddy's plane had an interesting itinerary that day. His aircraft took off from Sacramento at 5:30 p.m., so this was a few hours after the raid began, and it flew to Palm Springs and then to Van Nuys, both of which are in Southern California. From there, its next stop was on a Caribbean island. Then the next morning, on March 26th, the jet disappeared from the tracking website. They released a boilerplate statement saying that the owner or operator had requested for their private information to be removed, and they'd complied. And I want to be clear, we don't even know if Diddy was on the plane or if he really left the United States. We just know that his plane did. And even if he did, he could have been making a legitimate business trip. The fact is, there's a lot we don't know at this point. This story is still developing, and it's possible that something new will come out hours or even minutes after this episode is released. After all, in the past few days, the internet has been full of new findings and some wild speculation. People unearthed old interviews that hinted at even more of Diddy's possible bad behavior. In a 2016 interview, his protege, Usher, described some of the sex parties that Diddy threw when he was early on in his career.
In the 90s, do you understand what that's like?
Puffy's place was like just filled with chicks and orgying like nonstop, right?
No, not really. I mean, but hey, it was curious. I got a chance to see some things.
Yep.
Apparently, Usher could walk through Diddy's house and walk in on orgies in progress. And some old clips surfaced of Diddy talking about partying for 48 hours with Justin Bieber. And among other things, Diddy said he was going to spend those 2 days going, quote, full crazy. And he and Justin talked about picking up girls, which may not sound that shocking unless you realize that Justin was only 15 years old when this was filmed. Maybe he and Diddy were just putting on a show for the cameras. Maybe they were playing the role of irresponsible party animals. But in light of all the other allegations that have come out, it almost sounds like a pretty clear pattern here. Diddy may have preyed on young music professionals, putting them in sexually inappropriate situations for his own purposes. Again, we'll have to wait and see before we can know anything for sure, but I want to wrap up with one other observation. Some people are already calling this raid the start of the music industry's Me Too movement. We all remember everything that went down beginning in 2017, when people publicly came out against Hollywood big shots like Harvey Weinstein, Bill Cosby, and Matt Lauer. But you didn't see as much of a reckoning in the world of rap. There were a few accusations going around, but very little that really stuck. Lots of insiders now say that the music industry is overdue for someone to shine a spotlight on its sexual misconduct. And this raid might just kick off something like that. Even if Diddy isn't arrested or charged, this might embolden survivors to step forward and name other potential predators. It could even lead to the same kinds of reforms that have just begun to be implemented in other industries to protect performers. Only time will tell what kind of fallout we're going to see, but from the sound of it, some kind of consequences are due.